All right. What makes me uniquely qualified to give this talk? Nothing. All right. So what happened was I started with just a small pre-made kit. I don't know, it's total of 2 ounces of material, I think. In any case, I went through that kit. So I learned basically to roll a couple and wanted to share my experience a little bit. Now, again, nothing makes me uniquely qualified compared to someone else. But what may help you is the perspective of I'm only a few steps ahead of someone who hasn't started yet. So if you have not started, I probably remember a little more of the troubles I had getting started than someone who's been rolling for 20 or 30 years and they're not giving the little details, right? The things they forgot that are important. So let's see, where is I got everything from Whole Leaf Tobacco, not a plug, not a sponsor. It's just who I got it from. So like I said, I started with 2 kits and I think they're 2 ounces each. And what happened is I rolled them. They were successful. My first cigar was pretty nice. The flavor was good. I normally have an Olivia Series V. If I'm buying one, that's kind of my, not the cheapest, not the best, not the worst, but really good for the money, I think. And the first one I had was a kit that the flavor was every bit as good. And so using a little bit of water to squirt. This is more of a mister, fine drops. But for the price, instead of a $12 or a $13 cigar, it was immediately down to, say, $1.50. I use a rotary cutter instead of a chaveta because I have one. It works pretty nice. And there are always more than one way to do it. I actually saw this roller cutter in one of the factory this stuff's a little brittle. One of the factory tours on YouTube. Not one of the biggest factories, not one of the smallest, but I think I only saw it in one video and I was like, yeah, for how cheap they are, it's a good recommendation. They work well. Yeah, this is, let me wet this stuff down. So as soon as you moisten it, it really does start to loosen up and get better. In fact, I probably should have let all of these pre-soak a little bit, but that's what I'm doing now is I'm cutting out the stem, getting them a little bit moist so I can work with them. And then I just let them all sit inside of one of the plastic bags that they ship in, right? So the moisture's trapped in. This is the wrapper. In fact, I'm gonna say these are way too dry to be getting started with. Anyways, so I'm just gonna start wetting things down. Wetting them too much, but you'll see here in a little bit that that's really not gonna be a problem. It is starting to become winter here, so the humidity is getting sucked out of the air. Oh, is that only half? Yeah. No, there it is. So instead of wasting your time, let's start talking about some of the reasons or insight that I may have as a beginner that may help you out a lot more. I guess I can quickly cover these things. So I've thrown that into a bag. I'm gonna pinch off the bag and I'm gonna leave it sitting in a warm spot. So hopefully the humidity gets to it a little sooner rather than later. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is a loose roll versus a tight roll. You don't know how tight you want to get it in there. And truth be told, for what I understand, is you're going to want to make it instinctually, you're going to want to roll, you are going to want to roll it tighter than it needs to be. And what I mean by that is your concern will be that it's not tight enough. And the truth is you're going to have it too tight. So you're looking to not jam pack it. It needs to breathe. The moisture, as the leaves are shipped, they're a little moister than you're going to smoke it. Moisture takes volume, makes things swell and get softer. So as they dry, they're going to get a little looser. What I want you to think about is that's perfectly fine. You probably shouldn't do a whole lot with that. Making it tighter, forcing it. You still want it to be relatively loose when it's wet, so it's even looser when it's dry. So I'm just doing one little mist pump on each side. Just enough. This is the binder. And I got one too many. Yeah. All right. So if you make it tight, you are going to have a hard time smoking it. Lighting obviously isn't going to be much of a big deal because you got fire. Fire's good enough. So if it's loose, the worst that can happen is it's going to be a little light when you smoke it. It's going to flow a little too well. Perdomo tends to be a little looser than some of the other ones. And truthfully, there's nothing really wrong with that. So I don't want you to think that right off the bat you need to roll it tight. Roll that thing loose and work up to the tightness. There will be less problems for you in the long run. All right, so this binder number 1. Now, this stuff also is a little more resilient than you would initially think. The leaves, you can stretch, you can pull them, they're a little pliable. But like this right now, holding it up to the microphone, there's no crunch. Crunch obviously is going to want to do, it's going to want to fall apart. So your wrapper, if it crunches, or your binder, you're more likely to tear what I would deem almost as, or probably the most important piece of the cigar, the whole process. And ultimately, you have a tube that you're smoking. You're pulling from one end, you're lighting the other end, but if that tube has leakage in it, you're going to have a hard time smoking. It's really going to turn into a trash cigar. So you don't want your binder and your wrapper broken. And in fact, sometimes if you get a little tear or a problem, you can just take some of that pectin and glue a patch in there, which for a beginner, great. If you're buying a $50 cigar, you probably don't want to see that. And let's see. So, gonna rip out all my leaves. So these are already been opened, but these are 2-ounce packages, and they come labeled. So this is the Viso. I'm just gonna open all of them because I should be going through them quick enough. This is the Seiko. Are you going to be able to tell the difference on camera? Yeah, not a whole lot. And Ligero. What you'll notice is that the leaves come in a variety of sizes. Some are relatively small. I mean, that's not much bigger than my hand. So Ligero, and they come stuck together. You just want to be real sure. That is the Seiko, and this is the Viso. I actually like a little bit of stem in my cigar. The base of it, really that last little bit, is where most of the, to my understanding, where most of the nicotine is. What I enjoy is, right, I cut that off of the one, I put that in my cigar. What I enjoy about it is if you didn't really change the flavor at all of the cigar itself, it almost feels, in my opinion, like champagne bubbles are in there. Small, smooth, you know, not Budweiser sized bubbles, but Guinness, that nitrogen, super fine. It just adds a texture to the smoke that I really enjoy. And part of the reason I got into cigars is I do want the nicotine. So that's a personal choice. So yeah, you can hear this. This has got a little crunch to it, but still a lot of folding. Everything here seems fairly consistent for what we're looking for. Having a test cigar so you can get the feel for what you're expecting is going to benefit you. So I'm going to roll these up, one of each leaf. Now a key thing is you're going to have a lot of scraps. You are going to make scrap cigars. Don't throw that stuff away. You have the whole leaf and then you have the chop. Well, just accept it. You're going to have that chop and you're going to work with it. I made my own molds. I 3D printed them. They were off of Thingiverse. So there's some out there, and they make like the one I got, I believe, is a 46 ring gauge. I also have a 54 ring gauge, so I make both at the same time. I ripped these off about 6 inches long, and that is going to make a tiny cigar. So we just add a little bit. Fat sides alternating. All right, I'm trying to keep the overall thickness consistent, and I also don't want to pile scrap all on one side. I just want a nice even flow, smooth everything out. All your scraps that I collect, I end up tossing in. If I have too much, I put it in a Ziploc bag, and then I use that to make little cigars. Like if I want one in the morning that's only 10-15 minutes, because some of these, generally, I have a cigar and watch a movie before going to bed. So a cigar normally is going to last me an hour and a half to 2 hours. That's what I want. Here's my bag of scraps. I want just a little bit more. And these are a bit wet, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. All right, so I'm feeling it. This is all pretty consistent, but this last little bit is missing just a hair, right? And now the preferred way, the way you're supposed to do it, is roll from the tip back. You know, your choice. But how tight, right? I'm trying to get this length to be occupied in here, but here's one of the tricks. The more you wrap it, you know, so if this angle is here, I'm getting more wraps on this chunk. I'm going to do that twice with the once with the binder, once with the wrapper. So if I'm getting 5 rolls instead of 3 rolls, I'm building up a wall thickness on the outside. That's going to help seal the cigar so it smokes better, but every upside has a downside. That is going to translate into a cigar that tunnels a lot more. It's harder to burn that outside casing, and so the cigar just dives through the center. So there's right and wrong. You don't want to do a whole bunch, but you want to do enough. And you can also cut it away if you need to. I do that on the wrapper. The binder only if it's necessary. Right? So I'm squeezing this like I'm giving my delicate wife a shoulder massage, right? Not the manly grab it in there, but just a little bit. And so what I'm trying to ensure is that everything is, as I'm checking, I'm feeling it as I go for soft spots. If there's something that is too wrong, then I'm going to stop and grab a little chunk, get about what I think is right, and then roll it up. So size is pretty consistent. I don't have the fancy cutter. You don't need one. Right? This one's a little short, but I'm going to work with it. These are the 3D printed ones. And right, fits in there nice and easy. I'm not, you know, you can see this is going to have to get cut way back here, but it is what it is. As you get better, you'll obviously get better, right? It squeezes down, everything gets nice and solid. So when I press that, it'll be just fine. So that one's done. Took me a while because I have an issue with talking and working, but we'll get over that. So nice and finger, roll it out. We're not trying to yank it. We're just straightening it out as easily as we can, anywhere that's messed up. While we're working on this, you can see these little tears are, you know, maybe where I cut it, maybe where I tore it, whatever. So if we want to trim it, we can easily do that. All right, nice and easy. On this side, one of the benefits is you're cutting off a lot of the thicker vein. So the results, especially on the wrapper instead of the binder, the result will be a smoother texture on the outside. So you can have thick and veiny if you want that, or you can have, you know, you can cherry pick a little more what you want. Now, you can see the time you spend trimming. That's why I don't really care so much about whether I do the binder or not. So if we're just making a couple of 54s, one of each leaf in Tabo tubular roll, because somebody said it's better. I think everyone agrees. You can alternate forward and back, you know, so clockwise roll, counterclockwise roll, whatever. Let's see. For the people just starting out or thinking about starting out, you know, a lot of times there's a tendency to want to go big, go big or go home. The larger the cigar, the more material you're going to use. Nothing wrong with that. You've got money, spend it how you want. But since we're trying to learn, I suggest you make smaller ones. Sub 50 ring gauge. Once you start, I mean, you have almost twice the material between a 46 and a 54. You're going to get twice the practice. And really, the cigar lasts about the same amount of time. So, you know, again, do what you want with your money. But for me, learning, save that couple of bucks. It's going to benefit you. Long run, you're going to have done twice as many practice. Your cigars are going to be better. And you're going to get a little more enjoyment out of everything. I did briefly touch on molds. I have several different ones that I have made. I started with someone's 3D program off Thingiverse, and then I modified one because I wanted the 54 ring gauge before I realized how much material I was wasting. So I still use them. I still make them. I mean, why would I not? Oh, this is another thing. You don't want this to twist. So as I'm rolling it, I'm letting that free hang and do its job, so I don't create a problem. Now, you can glue this. On the binder, you don't really need to. The end of the roll goes to the head. Is it the head or the foot? See, I'm too new at this. You're going to breathe off of this end because the wrap holds it together, right? This stays, this lets go. So as you're smoking, if you light the wrong end, it's going to fall apart as you smoke it. other than that, direction doesn't matter for the leaf or anything like that. It's just, it's going to lead to a crappy experience. So why do it? All right. So a little bit of press in, not that big of a problem. If you're really tucking it, if you're fighting it in there, it's going to be a tough cigar to smoke. Just know that ahead of time. Don't bother. Right now it's soft. Unroll it. Remove some material and then keep going. Oh. As the binder dries, it's going to shrink. That's part of what's happening in the form, why we leave it, 20 minutes to an hour. We'll get to rolling it in the form later. But that's part of the process that's going to help keep a tight cigar. So having the binder slightly damp, this crunchiness is too much. It's why I just wet it down a little bit, and I'm going to trim this stuff off. But if it's crunchy, it's going to crack, it's going to fall apart, you're going to smoke it, it's going to suck in a lot of air through the sides instead of through the tip. You're going to have problems. So favor being a little too moist. Now, hey, once you're an expert, do whatever you want. But as an idea, if you're just starting, it's beneficial just to not have those problems right up front. Also, there's two sides, right? One side has the veins that catch, and the other side is they're smooth. We want the smooth outside, so smooth goes down. This is a much bigger leaf than one of these, right? I mean, that's a giant size difference. So I would rather make my larger cigar, since I told you I have 54s. Since I have a big leaf for this one, I'm going to make a 54. Clean off some of that problem area. And it's never really a problem because this is scrap, excess material that's going to get incorporated. The trimming is going to be a little different from the binder and the wrapper. The binder, you don't necessarily have to trim at all. You just, again, want to be careful that you're not creating a thick outside wall. And you're going to use a little bit more material, right? Almost double. But I'm going to use scrap because I've got a gallon bag of scrap here that I don't want it to go bad. So again, a little entabo action. Now my 54s are just a bit shorter, so when I cut them, I take an extra ½ inch off, and that does what I'm after. These leaves are a little bit crunchy, so I'll have to attend to that here in a few. Get rid of the big excess, the big strong portion of the nicotine. All right. So this is pretty much a 46 right now. Okay, we're getting a little closer. It's definitely light on this end. Yeah, I still want some more. Yeah, we're much closer now. So because I narrowed it, I need a steeper angle. You can see a little bit of splitting. I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue, just because the wrapper will be coming on here in a few minutes. Yeah, so that seems just a hair bit fat right here. So I'm just gonna undo it and take a little bit out of that. And darn. All right. So what do we do? All right. You'll see videos where they trim this up. Can you? Yeah, absolutely. Do you need to? There you go, nice soft press. What you'll see once we come out is a lot of this will be taken care of. I'm just going to have to express caution when I do the wrapper on it. Again, I squeeze it down, so we're good. The hangout, we address that later, cut it off. Not that big of a deal. So, here's the other side of that. All right. You'll see the easy way to tell is the stems are going to come down into the main stem. These little branch out towards the tip. So if they're, if you can't figure that out, go look at a diagram of a leaf, I guess. I'm sure you can figure it out a lot easier than I can describe it. That's why I said it. So 1, Seco, Viso, Lajero. So let's see, what else do we have? Cuts and nicks in the leaves for our binder or wrapper are, I'm going to call them stress risers. Kind of an engineering term where a crack or say a ding, even in metal, when you fold it or stress it, it's going to break on that ding. Anybody pencil fight back when they were in middle school or something like that? That's the same thing that's happening. So if we eliminate that, we eliminate a lot of the problems we face. That's the wherefore of the trimming, making the edges smooth. And it's not a race, so why not do it right? Yes, nicotine is addictive. If you don't want to be addicted, don't do it the way I'm doing. What else do we got? Yeah, I addressed the filler. I have some notes over here on paper, but filler, again, you're going to learn. It's going to be rather quickly. You're feeling consistency. Okay, it's a little thin here compared to up here. You don't need a whole lot for what you can feel is different. And one of the things you want to try to ensure is that the smoke can travel. So any binds, a lot of folding, you know, big pieces that are bunched up, they're not going to flow. Occasionally I'll have this is not a long one, but if I had a long one, that'll get doubled up. That's not really impeding flow, but I think you can understand what I'm saying in that there needs to be air cracks in the material all the way down, because that's where you're drawing the smoke through. If you block that, or if you have a bunch of material in one spot where this is loose, and that's tight, that's going to be a blockage. You're not really going to smoke through that. And when you trim off the end and you go to light it, before you light it, you do that test draw, and it's going to be, you know, like, you don't want to be sucking a McDonald's thick shake through that giant straw and not getting anything. It needs to flow. So our whole process that we're working with is to create something that flows and you enjoy the flavor of. So the flavor comes from the type of leaves you choose, which is a great benefit to starting with one of the kits. You know what leaves are in the kits. The kits aren't super expensive. You try it, you know, a normal kit on a 46 ring gauge is probably going to make 15 or 20 cigars. Well, if you're paying $10 a cigar, then that's 150 bucks worth of cigars. And it only costs you, you know, let's say shipped to your door, 50 bucks. So it's, you know, it's a lot cheaper. Definitely after you get a test kit, if you go, I like this, step up, get away from the test kit, the test kit will tell you what leaf they used. Just buy the bigger version. The 2-ounce packs are pretty big. You're going to get a lot more for your money buying it individually than you are in a test kit. They send this, which I can only as cigar glue, mixed contents. It doesn't really tell you what it is. I use pectin. It's a canning thing. That's probably what that is pectin. But if you buy it from the grocery store, it's going to be cheap, cheap, cheap. Same instructions, mix it nice and easy. So this is too small, the pack. So I'm just going to add in a bit and keep the feel that I want. As it goes down, I feel a little looseness right here. Just add just a bit, not even that much, just that. You can feel these differences. It doesn't take long. It's not like, you always hear how like the greatest cigar rollers ever are Cuban and blah, 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 blah. I want you to go watch one of those videos at one of the major factories. I don't care what factory. One, you're not going to see a whole lot of smiles on faces. And two, they're working for minimum wage, basically. These are not the best cigar rollers ever. It's not a hard skill to get competent at. You can do, oh wow, that's, let me not get distracted too much. You can literally roll a cigar in your first week that is constructed as well as anything you have ever bought in a store. Especially if you're you know, trying to make a competition cigar, kind of as a phrase there. I don't even know if there is a cigar competition. I'm sure there is, but you can already see the shape on that versus the one I just put in. And I didn't even do anything besides just squeeze it a little. That shape's going to come in. Sorry, I kind of jumped from one subject to the next. But just because I opened the mold, you can see it. I mean, it looks much nicer, right? The head, this is the very first one, so I said I was going to have to trim it a little short. But, so on the mold, the inside versus the outside, nothing really to show there, but just so you have an idea what it looks like. Leaves. I've kind of already pointed this out a little bit. All leaves are not created equal. What does that mean? Well, you can't leaf count. You can't say, oh, well, I'm putting 3, one of each, so I have a total of 3 leaves. What, 3 big leaves, 3 little leaves? What's the total? So if you're starting and you're trying to use leaf count, it's just going to create some issues. So my suggestion is not to do that. It's going to have to be by fill, fill, but feel as well. You're going to have to pinch it, get that shape in your hand, and go, okay, this feels just a little bit bigger than the last one. And you're going to put it in the mold, and you're going to have to squeeze it in there. Oh, well, guess I did that wrong, and I'm going to have to redo it. The downside is, when you redo it, you're probably going to have to throw your binder away because it's going to crack and just be problematic. Not that big of a deal, because when you get the binders and the wrappers, you're pretty much going to get double the other stuff, the filler leaves. And that's because this is larger, but it's thin and light. So the leaves are going to weigh close to the same. You're going to get, an ounce or 2 ounces or whatever. Well, you're just going to end up with, you use half of one of these leaves for 1 Viso, kind of as a ratio. So you're going to end up with quite a bit. So if you damage one, don't care. It's now filler. It's smokeable. I'm not wasting it. Neither should you. All right. And this process just repeats over and over. Same thing. So I've got, 4 made since the video started. Half made. I don't have the finish on it. let's see, what else do we got? Leaves are not equal, just covered that. Tunneling, patching the wrapper, I addressed that a little bit. So you can hear that's got some snap to it. Too much snap and it just turns into powder in your hand. And you're not really after that. I'm going to make this one into a 46. So it's going to start out just a little bit longer. I'm going to have some to trim off. Let me get that thing in there, kind of towards the center. Not that it matters a great deal. I personally do not think. All right. So there's 3 leaves. Wow, it's just magic, but for this, and it might be just a hair bit too big, but we'll find out. So again, the pressure's not very much. I'm not yanking and pulling, I'm just trying to keep it consistent. And my fingers are doing a lot of feeling. So it's squishy this way, but a little firm that way. So I'm gonna try to work that just a little bit. The chaveta. Let's address that real quick. I'm just using a knife. This is handy. You can't slide because it tends to tear the leaf. Not always, but what you're looking for is that roll to cut it through, right? A little bit of pressure. So when you do it, it's a roll, which is why I use that, right? This is an Olfa, which they make really good stuff. It just makes it simple. These are 10 bucks on Amazon, so, you know, use whatever you're comfy with. So let's see, this might be a little thick. Yeah, I think that'll be fine. But this one is the right length. Again, the shape comparison. Now, I have a 4-pack, a 3-pack, and 2 singles. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I end up with 1 left over. That's what I used for my form on the last one. Piece of paper. We'll get to that. You'll see it. It's pretty simple. So kind of what I'm saying is you don't have to buy a form to start with. It is not necessary. If you want to, most of the cigar supply places will sell them. 10-pack forms in 54 ring gauge for $100. Really not a bad deal, because that's something you're going, again, if you like rolling. If you get into it and you go, hey, I can see me doing this, because it's a hobby and you enjoy the proceeds, right? So if you've got that as a hobby and you enjoy it, $100 for something that will literally last you a lifetime. And how often are you going through 10 cigars? I mean, 10 is going to last me about a week. If it's going to, I have a buddy of mine who only smokes 1 every Saturday. You know, it's kind of a ritualistic start to the weekend thing for him. Whatever. 10 for him is going to last, well, 10 weeks, right? So, and you only need the mold for about an hour. Let's say 20 minutes plus 20 minutes, so 40 minutes once you flip it. Sometimes you want to let them sit a little longer. However, at the speed, look at the time on this video, at the speed I'm batching, once I open that mold and start wrapping, I can go take a few minutes to wrap them all up, and then I'm ready to use that mold again. It's not like it's out of service. So if you want to make 100 of them, go right ahead. But I'm just saying, one mold, one, it's useful. It makes your product nicer. You know, I think you'd rather smoke a nice cigar than try to handle this stuff by hand, right? Kind of the point in rolling it, a little pride in your work. I have a 3D printer, so I didn't see the point in buying a mold until I was sure I wanted one. Well, now I want one, so my next order, I'll get one. But, you know, why waste the money if you're unsure? Light pressure. I'm not pulling or stretching or anything because this is the binder. Oh, little thick right there. Now the wrapper will have a lot of stretching on it. By a lot, I don't mean I'm stretching hard. I mean, I am stretching frequently. Okay. So, it'll be kind of a pull, roll a little, pull, roll a little, and you're just going to walk it up like every inch or 2 inches. You can see these videos of great people who know exactly what they're doing, and they don't really have to do that. Well, these are also people who are making, you know, 1,000 cigars a day for 20 years. I would fully expect them to be better than me. Well, someone who makes 1,000 cigars is better than me. 100, whatever. Like I said, I've probably rolled 45 cigars at this point. The biggest issue I faced right off the start was the whole, I had cracks on the side of the cigar. I'm looking for all sorts of problems that I didn't know what to attribute it to. I didn't stop and think or consider. And so my very first cigar was photo worthy. It was beautiful. I took a lot of care, very gentle, trying to figure things out, you know, kid gloves sort of thing. Nothing wrong with that. Now I don't do that so much. Do I have a good reason not to? No, it's my personality type. I'm making these for me. Obviously, you can't sell cigars without a tobacco license and whatever else goes with that. So these are for me and my wife. Sit down, enjoy a movie at the end of the day, and just have a cigar. I will be smoking one of these today. I'm not going to let it age 6 months. I'm not going to let it age 6 days. In fact, I don't think I've ever let a cigar age 6 days. I make the essentially kind of like a week's worth at one go. Sit down on the weekend or on a slow day when I want to break from reality, whatever it is. But I don't think making this a perfect intabo is going to make much difference. Like, if it's wrong, it's wrong. I understand that. But close, horseshoes, hand grenades, and cigar rolling, I think. It doesn't leak. It draws smoothly. That's what you're starting with. You don't need anything else. You don't need to freak out. You don't need to stress. Make a couple. It's not expensive. You're going to learn. You're going to appreciate more what's going on. And it gives you freedom. You can test all sorts of flavors. It's not very expensive. I think I spent, let's just say $130 on 2 ounces of everything, right? 3 wrappers, or 3 fillers, binder, wrapper. So 10 ounces. I don't know what the weight of a cigar is, but that's a lot of cigars. It is, probably in the 100, 150. That might be a bit much, but let's say 120 cigars. For the cost of 10 Olivia Series V, I get more satisfaction because I made it. I'm invested into it. But the flavor is really darn close, and the smokability is every bit as good. I'm telling you, it is not. Yeah, there's some art to it, but it's stick figure art. I'm sorry. I've never been impressed by someone who tries to gatekeep with I'm the best welder that there ever was. I'm the best blah, 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 blah. Whatever. You're not. You're mistaking an easy skill for something that is super difficult. Does it take some learning? Yes. Can you learn it? Yes. Period. Done. There is no question. Like there, I'm rolling it up. It felt a little thick. Well, I just pulled out a tiny little bit. So when I put it in, I slide it up so it's tight on this end. So we're getting that nice form. And now, all I end up doing is setting it here on the desk. Let's see, I've got, dang it, there it is. All right. I've got 2 more 54s to make. So we'll get those done. And then I'll show you the pressing, which is, oh, so amazing and informative. You'll be surprised. /S. /S. So. Right. Like I said in the beginning, this is not because I'm an expert. It's because if you've never done it, I'm 1 or 2 steps ahead of you. Some of this stuff I've not heard anybody mention. And I've watched, there's a couple of guys who routinely make cigar rolling videos. They do live streams and, I've watched a little bit here and there. But primarily, I've watched more of the factory rollers or old videos. The you know, early days of YouTube or something, you know, it's almost black and white. But the knowledge is out there. There's plenty of people. Everyone has an opinion. But like most opinions, mine is right. You can learn this. Why would you? One, I like the value. Value for the money is, yeah, I don't know. Isn't it important to everyone in some way? Like there's rich people who can have whatever they want. See my setup? I'm not rich. But I still want it. Oh, I want something that's valuable to me. If I do something you don't like, that's not my problem, that's your problem. Some people want to buy stuff to impress. All right, that one's getting a little firm. I may have some issues smoking that, but since it's not super problematic, I have, where is it? I have this little screwdriver, tiny little jeweler screwdriver. If it's jammed up, I just poke a hole down the center on both ends, you know, once I'm ready to smoke the cigar, because the way it dries out will affect it more than I'm capable of judging currently. So with practice, that'll get better. Some of the factories have a kind of a vacuum machine. Once they get to this stage, before they stick it in the mold, they slide it up in there, and there's a vacuum draw, and it measures it and goes, okay, this is exactly what we're looking for. I don't have that test set up. You know, I don't have that jig handy to me, so I can't really do that test. This is a bit crunchy. Right here, I don't know if you heard the crunch. So that's how crunchy it is. That water's gonna start to soak in just that quick. Oh, I spoke too soon. Anyways, it'll soak in and start to become very pliable. Well, that's going to be my crappy one. The hand rolled in the paper. All right, we're starting to make progress there. All right. Now, watching those other guys that I mentioned, the YouTube guys with live streams, I'm not going to drop their name for no reason other than I can't remember them off the top of my head and I don't want to butcher it. But if you look up cigar rolling, you'll see quite a few options. There's plenty to learn there. There's plenty to learn on the factory tour, the factory rolling. Every cigar factory tour is like, I'm a budding filmmaker and I want to make the exact same thing. I want to tell you the exact same story. It's a bit monotonous, so I don't care about those a whole lot. But once you get into the rooms and you start to understand why choices are being made, that's very informative. And I highly suggest you watch some of those. You know, if I were down in Ybor City or something, I'd probably go take a tour or 5. If I were in Cuba, Dominican, if I was anywhere where there's a factory, yeah, I would like to go in there and take a tour just to see the magnanimity of things, the smells, the size, the amount of people, you know, more on what the operation is, not so much on the cigar rolling specifically. And getting close. In fact, we'll not even put those last ones in there. All right, the starting edge. You want to try to be able to get a full wrap before it gets up there. So you can't start out here. It's sacrificial, you're going to cut it off. You've seen me quite often cut it off, toss it into the pile. But once we start rolling, that first tucks in so it can lock down. All right, do you hear any cracking now? That little bit of water, it just happens pretty quick. You know, it makes that seal. I want a little more here. Even more. That's kind of amateurish of me. Maybe I'm just keep rolling it too long. I don't know. Yeah, that's what I think it is. I just extended it too far. That fits in nice, maybe a hair bit loose, but I'd rather it loose than tight. So I'm just going to take these, stack them up. Where did it go? There it is. You can see that, right? I'm just using a quick grip clamp and I'm squishing it down till all these are nice and tight. They only need 10 or 20 minutes. So I'm going to slide them off here to the side so I can make that last one I was telling you about. It's gotten a little better, but it's still cracked. So I'm just going to make it wet. And now, do that. Dropped a few. Let's see, get that out of there. There are other ways to do this. I'm just doing a quick version, but you know, because this wrapper is pretty well not great. So I'm just kind of throwing this together to give you an idea of your options. I'm just going to keep stuffing as it goes down. Oh, that looks horrible. You're right. But just at a diagonal. As I keep rolling it, I'm tightening it a little. You know, the inner wrap. Now I'm just going to fold that end. And it'll stay. It'll turn into a pretty decent roll. Now, all the excess stem stuff, I keep that. My wife gardens. If you throw it in a bin or a container, right, that is good for fertilizer. Sorry, that's good for pesticide, right? So you can use that to spray on your tomato plants or whatever to kill the insects, keep them off. So now, a lot of this is useful. My table wasn't very clean, so I'm just going to throw it away. Not that great big deal of a loss. Bags full of stems and junk. I'm really more concerned about the nicotine than anything else in what I'm keeping. It's not for the leaves, it's just for the nicotine itself, which is almost completely in the stems. Again, this is what I heard. I don't know if that's true. All right, so I've done my 10. I'm gonna quick, put this stuff away. The more time exposed out of the bag, the drier it's going to get. It's pretty easy to make natural materials, leaves, to mold. If I were to wet these leaves, the odds of introducing a problem are pretty high. So there are ways you can go about it that aren't really problematic. And the number one is I take, let's see, I don't have it handy. So say your cigars are cracked and dry and you want to hydrate them. Now this goes for just the raw leaf material or whatever. I'll take just a standard Ziploc baggie. Ziploc, not by name brand, but just whatever. And I'll take a bit of folded up paper towel. Lightly moisten the paper towel. And then I'll put the cigars in and I'll have the paper towel up here not touching. I shouldn't be able to squeeze water out of it. In fact, if I unfold it, it shouldn't really feel wet on the inside after I misted it. It should just be a light little bit. And then it sits not touching. So the moisture transfers not moisture touching the leaf. So we just want the humidity, and it's only going to take a little bit to rise the humidity in the bag. So if as winter sets in, the air gets drier, you got the heater going, the humidity in your house starts to drop and drop, or maybe you live in the Southwest or wherever. I'm pretty nice in that, what are we? Yep, see, I'm at about 58% humidity right now. A week ago, I was hovering right at 63, which is about perfect for what I do, for the way I like my cigars to smoke and everything. So to rise it from 58 to 63, not that much. But what you're going to find out is these fresh cigars, because the wrappers are wet and the binder was wet, when if I were to stick those into a bag, seal it up with the humidity gauge in there, it would be 75, 80, 90%. So I leave my cigars out overnight after rolling them, and then I start to monitor after that to get them, you know, settled pretty close to in place, stick them in the bag. That way I'm not, the wood box, see, I'm struggling with basic stuff. The wood box is, the humidor, is going to absorb some moisture, give off some moisture. It's going to be a little, I'm kind of looking for a sealed environment to get things right about where I want them, and then introduce the variables, stick it in the humidor, let it sit. I've got a gauge in there. It doesn't fluctuate a whole lot, but I don't want to throw all these in, saturate the humidor, bring the wood inside up to 80% while the new cigars are getting rid of humidity. And now I'm fighting, like, I moved this, but this went, so this, that. I don't want that. So I get it close, and then life is easy. Right, so here we go. That, once I start to lift it out, you can see it flex a little bit. So it's not super dry, but when you pull it out, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a press line right here and 180 degrees out. So what we want to do is rotate that, stick it back down in, make sure it's tight up on this end, and we're going to do that for every one of these. That one's already a little drier. Presses in nice and easy. We're all good. Now, you can see I have the tips on still. For what you're buying in the store, you expect it to be oh so nice. For personal use, you can smoke that. You don't have to cut it. I'm gonna cut it off, but you don't have to if you don't want to. There's no law. There's no cigar cops coming around. Did you trim that right? The another thing, yeah, these will, see that one, that's taken a bit much. This one's going to be tight and probably problematic. I called that out earlier, but now I've pretty well confirmed it. Oh well, I'll poke it with a stick. All right, so that's another thing that I use that for, that screwdriver. Slide it in and it'll, you know, it just moves the load into here instead of right on the edge, so the leverage changes and I do less damage. They are more fragile at this state than they will be once the wrapper's on it. So I'm just going to leave this as a long video. I'm going to ramble a little bit. And if you don't like it, you can shut it off or fast forward to the more exciting stuff. So this won't take long. The humidity's pretty well right where I want it. So I'll clamp these down to help just press that seam out. And then I'm gonna start getting ready with some wrappers. Yeah. So these are the ones I put in wet earlier. And now they are pretty floppy. I have a little bit of stereo at the end of my desk. The amplifier, you know, is putting off, what, 85-degree air or something like that. Nothing much, but enough that it helps. Just adding a little moisture right here to this end because that was bunched up a little bit. Generally, you're going to run into some problems at the base of the stem and at the tip, because this stuff, it bunches up basically. You don't have to fight that. Now, one of the things you do want to be concerned with is we want this to pretty well have no tears. So this is where you're starting to enter the kid glove stage of what's going on. Now, some of these other guys can just rip this stem right out of here. I don't understand how they do it. So I've tried it once or twice, and since I can't do it, I'm not going to keep trying. So set that aside. All right. So just little slidey fingers. What sounds like leather right now is because that is, I guess, more paper than leather, but it's not perfectly soaked. The very edges kind of roll up, and so it makes it hard for that water to penetrate. So you're still able to get it all worked out. I'm a beginner. There's no such thing as too much water. Like, I could literally dunk these into a vat of water and they would be workable enough for what I'm after. But what I do want to do is work out as much as I can, take the extra minute here. You know, what, are you going to look like an amateur to yourself? Because this is getting to the point of being very pliable. That, as a beginner, is a good thing. Trimming up the ends a little bit. Remember, I was just saying how the outside's a little crunchy? Because it was wrapped up. There's also going to be those stress risers, those little nicks. On the inside, this vein is tiny, but as we follow it up, it starts to become obnoxiously large. There, I'll throw that over here. Right, so working from the tip, we're rolling up. Ideally, it's going to stop right here because I need this chunk to make my termination of the cigar. Now, another thing is the leaf is two sides, stem in the middle. So we have a left side and a right side. That means the way we wrap it up, one, we want the part going in your mouth on this end. So we need to start from here and roll this way. So let me pull out my very first one. This is the first one I rolled. Right, so there we go. If I roll that, it's going to actually want to unroll this as I tighten this. So I want the roll to be in the same direction. So let's see, what do we got here? Nope, that was the 54. This is the first one. All right. So again, the end we're smoking goes up here. The loose end, again, I want that full wrap. So I'm just gonna put it on there, pull it over and hold it. And now my fingers are going to stretch and pull, or more likely stretch, and I'm going to pull the cigar back. So stretch it out, pull it tight. We're talking ounces of force. You can see that start to stretch. I'm pulling out the wrinkles, and I'm getting half a roll or so. And then I move my fingers, get it nice, roll it up. Now, the trim I did here makes this look beautiful. This is the finished product. You can see that unwrapped because I didn't glue it. Not that big of a deal. Look, it's tightening right up. And again and again. And I'm coming around, and now you can see this is going to cover that. Here's my pectin. I'm going to keep that kind of tight, and now I'm going to roll it up. So the cigar looks good. What I want to do is follow that around, right? And now, a little pinch and twist on the end. So you can see the end looks pretty good. Cut that off. Just let that sit for a minute, all right? Now, if I cut parallel lines, right, this is some little trash credit card thing, so don't bother with the number, it's fake. If I cut with parallel lines, when I wrap on here, it's going to want to come off in a tube. Parallel sides, I'm going to have some bunching. If I find a nice piece, no veins, right? There's a vein here and a vein here. But I put a bit of a crescent on the top. I'm just going to get rid of the excess, that other vein, so I don't have to worry about it. Right. Oh, there's a little bit right there. Let me get rid of that. Right. So now, a little bit of pectin on there. Because of I'm going to straighten that crescent out. When I roll it on here, because like if you curl a piece of paper, it wrinkles. Well, because we're undoing it and it stretches a little bit, what'll happen is the top will cone. It will help keep this structure right here instead of the straight structure. And because I'm curling this way, I want the wrapper to curl that way. So I start, it's kind of counterintuitive to me. I start at the opposite end of what I think I would have to. So again, just, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 ounces of pressure. Oh, I got too much glue, but that's not that big of a deal. So I'm just wrapping it around. Right, so keeping that just about perfect. But you can also see how this tapers in. Right, so that's the first cap. Do you need the second cap? Nope. Do you want it? I don't know. Some people do, some don't. There's some that leave the twist, some that cut it off. Again, you're making these. Do whatever you want. To give you an idea, I'm now going to have to locate a circle this big, which is about that big. Most people put a cork in a little copper fitting, you know, like a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch copper fitting, whatever. I don't know what size. This is some part of a flashlight thing that I got. I was like, oh, I'm not using that. Again, we want the smooth side down. I'm gonna put a little bit of glue on there. And we're just going to press that. And I'm gonna walk it in a bit of a circle with pressure, just so that edge is nice and sharp. Normally, I don't do as good a job cutting, and I just leave that in place. Take that and just cut that. Trim off that excess bit. Sorry about that. And now I'm gonna push that down, make sure it's all nice and pretty, and then stab it right in the center. Oh, a little bit off center. Right. So I'm just rolling that down. Trying to get the edges, which sometimes my cutter is too big. It really should be. This is what I mean, it's probably 1 inch diameter. If it were a little bit smaller, I end up having these issues with little folds right all the way around. So if I made it smaller, that would be fine. So I'm gonna feel to where it gets firm, and that's where I'm cutting it off. Now, there you go, right? Nothing wrong with that. And then I'm gonna leave it sitting like that all night long. Come back in the morning, well, one of them I'm gonna smoke. So I guess it'll be this one tonight. I have a little fan over on the other side that dries things out. So, oh, right. I set that out just a few minutes ago, and it's already dry. So I guess in the future, I need to put those leaves back inside of the plastic bag from which they came. I need to moisten that whole bag just a little bit. The one downside to storage is, you know, because it is, if you make it too wet, it's going to mold. If you make it too dry, it's going to crack and break and stuff. So you don't want to order 5 pounds of leaf. You're going to ruin it. Just unless you plan on sitting down to make 1,000 cigars in one go and you're going to store them forever, which, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. You want a 20-year aged cigar because you just can't get to smoking it yet. You do you. For me, I'm not really interested in having a $5,000 humidor to store stuff and, you know, like fine wine, hope that it's good in 20 years. Will it be good? Probably. Will I have done a good enough job that in 20 years I feel like it was worth aging? Probably not. So why would I waste my time? All right. So now, let's see. Oh, dang it. Dadgummit. Again, that one's still not the right direction, so maybe I looked at it wrong a few minutes ago. There we go. Let's see. Yeah. Maybe I'm just being dumb. So get that nice pull. Try to keep my hand out of your way. Oh. Dang it. Said I was going to try. I tried. Now, so that little tear, right, is going to get covered up. So not the end of the world, right? So the so both times you saw how when I cut, I kind of notched out. So I had that 1.5 inches, 2.5 inches, whatever. And then right there, it cuts out and leaves a bigger chunk. That's because I'm getting to where I need to make the wrapper, the cap. And I need to leave room for the first cap and the second cap. Like I said, the first time I had too much on it. too much glue, and that was kind of problematic. Not super bad, it just makes it a bit slippery, so if you tighten too much it just wants to pull off. This one, because it's the other side, this is wrapped the opposite, which means I need to start at the other end. So as this comes around, we're wrapping in the direction that the cigar wants to keep tight. And I am kind of wiping some of the glue off as I guide it. So again, nice little edge. Look at how tapered down it becomes, right? So now I can, just as the glue is setting, the glue doesn't take very long because the leaf is dry on both sides, and so it's wicking out into the moisture from the glue is wicking out into the leaf, which helps it just set up that much quicker. Right? So like right now, this is not crunchy, but it's a little bit dry. So if I put a little bit of glue, it's going to immediately start sucking that moisture out of the glue into the leaf. And a little walk all the way around. So you can see that little bit of hanger, which is why you just kind of leave it in place. Yeah, not that. That. Just a little off the tip. And now I just put that in there and I can rip it off. And my cigars end up with a little bit too much of a torpedo shape. Instead of being very concentric and a half round, it kind of necks down. So I need some improvement there. Again, like I said, you can smoke this, but you'll feel it get full size right there. This isn't trash. This goes into that bag and I use it on the next one. Right? So again, no errors, no problems. We got a, nope, that was just some lint it picked up off the little tobacco lint. But there is nothing wrong with that for smoking, for having a friend over, whatever. The pectin apparently is not a problem for smoking. So, to my understanding, that's the standard of what is used. I have tried honey. We get honey from the Amish, and it's not as good. I saw it from one of the Cuban guys doing hand roll. I guess that's the way they used to do it, or whatever. Well, pectin's better. Do whatever you want. No, I'm going with pectin. All right. Again, not really a problem with the leaf being too wet as far as I am concerned. The great factories of the world will dispute me. Congratulations to them. They know more than I do. I don't have a problem with that. But as a new guy, it's going to benefit you. I promise once I get to like 60, 70,000 cigars, I probably won't have to do that anymore. And with the roller, you pretty much don't have any of those loose tags that are problematic. Let's see, what was this? Yeah, all right. You know, when you cut it and you miss that one tiny little spot, because it's a continuous cut with the chaveta, you slice, 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 there's just a higher opportunity. It is the standard, the chaveta. So once you know how to use it, hey, maybe it is, son of a, see, it's still fragile, but it's on the inside, that tear, it's on the inside of what I'm doing, so it's going to get covered. I wish it didn't happen, but since it did, see here it's coming around and it's covered. Yep, that bottom's a little wonky overall. So let's cut that off, leave that as long as possible. Now, I'm gonna use a little cheat. That just helps even things out after I made it wonky. Just changing it up a little because, you know, it does not matter. This is simple stuff. Yeah. There's nothing you can't really come back from. So we are rolling this way. So to get it to come over, we start on this end. And once I have sight of it, I'm just going to keep the curved edge in a straight line by twisting it. Which is going to make this tip. See how, I mean, it's almost shameful. I did a bad job. Still gonna smoke it. All right. For those of you new to smoking cigars, when you use your chopper, you are not coming into here. You are literally going this far in. The cigar is already prepped on the end. You are just cutting this layer off. You're not cutting the smokable material. You are cutting just that. All right. What do we got? Anybody bored yet? You should shut this off. Um, I'm just making a long video because, you know, why not? See this? A little leathery. All right. So we just kind of parallel it. The cigar rolls here. This is so I have the excess area. We can see the line progressing this way. So that's where we want to start. Now, if I'm worried about this, if you pre-trim this just a little closer, you have a better starting point. Everything is just, you know, cheating in the direction that benefits you. If I need to make it just a little bit longer, do it in the way that benefits you, not that harms you. I mean, it sounds obvious, but sometimes you just don't think about it in terms like that. So I'm trying to get this so you have a little better view of the way to cut it. Right. So there's a vein and there's a vein. Right, semicircle, cut off the excess. This side doesn't matter. You can trim these up a little. Doesn't really matter a whole lot. The most important aspect is that this is long enough to make at least 1+ revolutions. Right. If it's short, not going to do so good, right? So this one is wrapped this way, so I need to start from this end. Yeah. I'm going to straighten that up a little and just start to wrap that and keep it straight. So that was pretty well 2 wraps worth, give or take. We got that taper down. So now I just need a spot big enough the moisture help stick it to the table. Now, sometimes when you do that chop, it may pull that cap, so you can just press it down a little bit. If it slid up, you can just slide it back down. That also helps make it nice and tight. Get everything prepped. But as you can see, I mean, the filler is right there. So we really are just cutting off so we get to the filler. Once this cap is on and it's mashed down, it will be right exactly on that filler. I mean, that is what it is sitting against right now. Right, because I am mashing it down. I know what it looks like, stop laughing. We're mashing it down, but the filler, I can touch the filler. The reason I'm mentioning this is I was on a forum the other day and someone was talking about their cutter wasn't sharp anymore. If you're just cutting this one layer, that cutter should be sharp forever. So he's cutting the wrong thing. So nice tip, nice back. I got I'm gonna go ahead and cut this a little bit short, but since I did the paper one, right, we are nice, and I'm gonna go ahead and roll that one up. This will be my last one. So I want to roll this way. All right. I want to roll like this. This will be my butt, or the head butt. I don't know. The smoking, you know, this where your lips are going. So as I roll it, that tells me I want this side of the leaf. So, you know, just as a way of pre-planning. And I guess, since I have a little hole, I'll do a patch on it. Just like I already did one that had a problem. I'm only going to show you just for the sake of doing it, for not because it needs it. I'm gonna I may have lied on what half of the leaf I needed. Nope. I just kept the wrong one. That's what it was. What is it? Nope. What it turns out is I'm retarded. Yeah, there we go. The points are up. The bumpy stem is up. All right, and since that got cut out, all right, there's the hole. All right, so all I'm gonna do is find a patch. Are we recording? We're recording. All right. Battery ran out, so I just had to make sure. All right. I mean, this is as simple as like patching a bicycle tube when you were a kid. Done, right? It's really, that's all you have to do. So now, all right. You look really close, you can see the patch right there, but I only know because I'm looking for it. You can see a slight difference in the color, but I used a different leaf than the one I was working with, I believe. But whatever, it doesn't matter. Like I said, these are literally for me. So what is my acceptable tolerance for factory defects, I guess? All right, so again, it wraps this way. So I need to start at the top side. And I'm just a little bit of pressure. Yep. This one I'm kind of considering a freebie because this is an all trash cigar. I mean, the binder was a little abused. The wrapper was not great. It's all from scrap. But you know what? It's going to taste every bit as good as any of the other one made. You know, the same filler, the same everything. It's a little wonky. It's not dry enough, that's for sure. Yeah, I do really need to work on getting that tip more fatter, right? More consistent. But You know, it's an easy hobby. I mean, how long is it going to take me to make 10 or 20? You know, if I'm some guy making $50,000 a day, does it make sense to roll your own cigars? No, absolutely not. Would you still enjoy it? Yeah, probably. As with many things, if you woodwork, you appreciate the projects you've made. You'll be able to find mistakes in everything you make. But it's just a satisfaction, a job well done. I'm going to have one anyways. This is way, way, way cheaper. I mean, you see the amount of labor that goes into it. The professionals are much faster, but I mean, what are they turning out? 20 an hour? 50 maybe? I'm taking my time showing you, so I probably am close to twice as fast without talking. But I'm not in a race. This is about enjoying the process. I also drink cappuccino. I get up in the morning and it takes the machine 30 minutes before I get to use it. And then if I screw up any one process, the flavor is just off. It's not good. So for me, the process is half of the enjoyment. I like the cigar. I like to sit down and watch a movie. My wife and I share the cigar sometimes. But that's only half of what I appreciate. One, I'm sampling my work. But right now, I'm watching the process. I'm trying to nitpick so I can get better. My very first hand roll was as good as any of these. The one thing I've started to work on and understand is more of the composition of what's going on. Let me just read off the 10 tips I went through earlier. Loose roll, right? By trimming the edges, by paying attention, the lines as they come down, they're tight. By stretching it a little, it helps grab on. As it dries, it's going to shrink and grab a little bit more. There's double layer. There's no cracks. When there was a hole, I patched it. Okay, I made the hole, but it still shows you what's going on. These will draw. When I'm sucking on this end, it's going to be coming from here. All right, so that was my first problem, is I thought I had a loose roll, right? And because of that, I started rolling it tighter and tighter, which started tearing more and more. And I was I'm hunting for the answer, but I'm on the wrong path. So once I found some tips somewhere, I don't remember. Kudos to that guy. Thank you. You helped me. He didn't tell me. It was just a random post. But if that's not right, the cigar's not going to smoke the way you want it to. Right? Yeah, air on the side of the wrapper being too wet. It helps with the stretch. It helps with the shrinkage. Once it's finished rolling, it'll become a lot tighter. And if for whatever reason you start smoking and that thing is brittle because it's too dry, before you handle it, spritz it a little. You don't need this. I mean, just dunk it in your whiskey. I don't care, whatever you're drinking. You can just lightly coat that whole thing and the outside layer will absorb that and it won't be cracking in your fingers, so it will smoke correctly. Too dry is bad. Too wet is bad. Mid 60% humidity is where this should be, not the room you're in, but this. How tight to pinch? Again, we're giving a nice massage to a delicate woman. We are not manhandling something. keeping it organized so it doesn't flop around and create twists and binds in the airflow. Very important. Just, I don't, you know, like the pressure, if you've ever kneaded bread, you know, that's kind of the pressure you're looking for. It a little bit, but more in ounces, not in pounds. We do want the leaf close and organized. We don't want this, we want this, right? And these, there's cracks running all the way down, air spaces, gaps. And so this is not going to flow. But this, bunched up nice, will. Make sure you have that. Ring gauge. The smaller, and you can make cigarette size stuff. It's practice. This material costs money. So if you buy enough to make one cigar, you're only getting one cigar worth of practice, and you need more than that. Also, your finger's going to be covered in nicotine. Don't rub your eyeballs. Yeah, so 46 is plenty. Don't start bigger than a 46. If you like the giant fat ones, congratulations. You're after practice. Start small. Molds. These are all 3D printed by me on my machine. The finished, the bought ones are better than what I made. Does it really matter? It would be better if they were all one size, so the consistency of the feel. You can swap sizes, but not back and forth. It's a little more difficult to get consistently good, and that's what you want. You want consistently good. Nicotine. From what I understand, this is about 95% of the nicotine. This is most of the rest. The leaf doesn't give you a whole lot. So if you do not want the nicotine, make sure to get rid of the excess stem. In the full leaves you're pulling out, there's stem in that. You can get rid of all of it if you want. The nicotine is the addictive part. Manufacturers probably want that in there. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not naming names. I mean, it is smoking, so the assumption would be some nicotine, but I'm just saying you can control it more for what you want. What's wrong with cuts and nicks in the edge, right? So a stress riser, if you take anything and scratch it, cut it, you know, when you bend it, that's where it wants to break. So it's the same thing on the leaf. If I have that, right, when I pull it, where's it going to tear? It's a no-brainer, so that's what you want to avoid. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, maybe. Filler. Cross feel. So if you have a cigar, right, we're feeling what it's like. So when I go to make another one, I'm putting this much filler in, and then they're coming out to the same size. It's that feel. If you have a model, it's easy to duplicate it. If you're just guessing, it's a lot more difficult. Yeah, all leaves are not equal, so counting is not the answer. Big leaf, small leaf, thickness of the leaf. There's a lot of variables, but you cannot go 3 leaves makes this cigar. It's not going to work the way you think it should. It is by feel. You could have some way of measuring it, but this is highly accurate for what you're doing. So learning this feel from the example, that tells you like how hard you need to squeeze to feel the size, and why am I moving it? It's because every finger is feeling for soft spots. So when I'm bunching this up, you know, if I have a crazy amount, this is about right. This, I mean, there's nothing there, it's flat. So I can just start adding until now this button here that I cut off, this base, that's too much. Okay, I'm getting a lot better. It's all this feel. Each finger is doing something separately. And as you move it, you're making the comparisons. It really becomes very, very simple. Binder and wrapper. When wrapping, if it's turned too far, I'm getting wrap, 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 wrap. And it's going to make a very thick outside, which is where this stays and it tunnels on the inside. Now, if this is too thin, it'll do the opposite. When you're smoking a cigar, essentially you want it to look like this all the way down, right? Nice flat edge. If this is pointing out, your wrapper's too thin and this is too dense. If it's tunneled inside, this is too loose compared to how thick this is. If it's canoeing, that's where this is still unburnt leaf and it's carrying down to here. That's because you have a soft spot on the inside or a hard spot. You know, it's struggling to burn here while it's flowing over here. So that's why it's going to burn that way. The air is pulling the fire. So where the air is moving, that's where the fire is moving to. And patching the wrapper. That was pretty basic. Take a little, glue it on, on you go. But as I said before, you have excess binder and wrapper when you buy in equal quantities. I'm not suggesting you be wasteful and just throw stuff away, but you know, you're going to have to restock at some point. You're probably not going to need as much binder next time or as much wrapper, but when you get something, you may want to change flavors. So, okay, my Ligero, I want to go to a stronger or my binder, because the binder and wrapper do change the flavor. The filler changes the flavor. We have 5 different leaves going on. Now, you could make it all out of one. There's 0 reason you can't do that. But it's going to be a very basic flavor. And this is a recipe. Do you want to create a beautiful flavor or do you just want the smoke? So, freedom of choice, you do you. I'm going to suggest that, one, start with the pre-made kit. Let me pull that a whole, inner, blend kits. I had the Tarosa Profunda cigar, $31.99 for a 1-pound kit. And that, you're gonna have to pay shipping. It's not that bad, but it tells you right in the description, Habano 2000 wrapper, Dominican binder, Cirillo 98 Viso, Dominican Olor Seco, Rene Ligero cigar glue. Makes 15 to 20 cigars, 50 gauge by 7, approximately 1 pound. So I started with that, and then I come over to long fillers, and it's 1 pound for $21. Okay, so just on that comparison, 1 pound of leaf in a kit is $39, but that's 5 different kinds of leaves. Well, so it's $10 cheaper. You know, there's $21.99, $23, $17.99, a variety of prices. But let's just say it's $10 cheaper per pound to buy the loose leaf. Well, now you have so many choices. You can, the recipes, you can make whatever you want to make. So I would encourage that. Do something that, you know, becomes a flavor you enjoy. And it's a good, to me, rewarding hobby that instead of costing you money is saving. If you smoke cigars, this is saving you money. And I mean, all of this is still perfectly usable. There's no reason to have huge waste. You just collect it, and this stuff, the excess goes to the nicotine for the garden. Okay, there's a little bit of trash there if you're not doing that. But all of this is still usable. And when the cigar is made, you really cannot tell the difference. When you smoke it, you're not going to complain. Man, that one's kind of junky right there. Oh well, still smoke. So, y'all have a good night. See you later.